Very pleased to welcome you to the screening of The Old Oak. It's great to have you here. Look forward to Ken Loach's latest film. It's an intense or more emotional refugee drama taking place in a former mining town. And Ken Loach was supposed to be here today, but he fell and is unfortunately able to travel. But the main actor, Dave Turner, is here today, so please welcome him.
Guten Abend, danke für die Einladung. That's the best I can do. Yeah, sadly Ken can't be here. He had a fall and he's damaged some ribs, but he's absolutely fine. But at 87-year-old, we've got to make sure we look after him. He sends his greetings to everybody. He's absolutely devastated that he can't be here.
Give him our best, yeah?
Give him our best wishes. Just like to say that it's a real honour to be part of this. We were part of this last night. It was an incredibly humbling experience. So please enjoy the film. It took 4 years to make. I'm very proud of it. So sit back and enjoy what is almost certainly Ken Loach's last film. Thank you.
Congratulations on a fantastic film and also fantastic acting. I think I have to mention it because I think it's not really visible in the film, but this was the first time you played a leading role. You were a firefighter for 30 years, if I did my research correctly.
Yeah, I was a firefighter for over 30 years and I retired in 2014. So yeah, this is my first and last piece of acting in a film.
So how was it? How did you get to know Ken Loach, and then how was the whole process?
Right, well, I said it was my first acting. I mean, I'm exaggerating. I had very small parts in Daniel Blake and Sorry We Missed You. And I was very lucky to get those through contacts I'd made through the trade union movement, because I was a full-time official of the Fire Brigades Union as well as a firefighter. And it was pure chance and circumstance and luck that I was able to get an opportunity to work with Ken Loach on Daniel Blake, and I thought that was great. It was had me photograph taken with him. I thought that was a great experience, and I was content with that. Then a couple of years later, they came back to the North East to make Sorry We Missed You, and they got in touch with me, and I got a really, really lovely little part in that. And again, I thought, you know, that was it, so I was content with that. And then 2019, I'd kept in touch with Paul Laverty, who's Ken's scriptwriter, and Paul was back in the North East looking to perhaps start another project. And we'd started doing some initial research into it and discussions we had, and at the time I was working in a pub for my ex-wife, which is a challenging dynamic to say the least. I was working in a pub in a former mining community in County Durham, which is the northeast of England. So I talked about the conversations that were happening in the pub, the state of the area where it's just been left to rot for 40 to 50 years since all the coal mines were closed. And that was starting to become really interesting, and then COVID hit. So everything was put on hold for 18 months, and then in 2021, Paul Laverty got back in touch and wanted to drive around the area, all these small, desperate communities. And then in June 2021, Ken asked to do the same, so I drove Ken Loach and Paul Laverty around. Not even sure I'd have a part in the film, to be in all honesty. Then I was asked to audition, which was incredibly difficult, incredibly emotional, draining, tiring, and at the end of that I thought, I think I might get a scene at one of the guys in the pub. I thought that I would have been over the moon with that. And then in December 2021 I got a phone call from the casting director, Colleen, and she said, "Hi Dave, would you take a phone call from Ken?" Well, yeah, but what's it about? Genuinely, and then yeah, a short while after he rang me and we talked about football as we do for a while. And then he's just said, "Right, Dave, there's 4 people have a vote on the main cast, and that's Ken Loach, Paul Loverty, Colleen Crawford, who's the casting director, and Rebecca O'Brien, who's the producer." He said, "We've had a meeting and it's unanimous. We'd like to offer you the role." But that wasn't my reaction. It was one of absolute panic. And Ken immediately realised what he'd said, and he backtracked and said, "Oh, don't worry, it's an ensemble piece. There's 6, 7 or 8 of you." He said, "Don't worry, it's, you know." And so I thought, right, okay, that's put my mind at rest a little bit. And then he said, "We'll keep in touch. We're going to start filming in April. People will be in touch. We'll have some chats and all." So in the January, Rebecca O'Brien, the producer, rang up to talk about legal stuff and contracts, and we'll go into issues that were in my contract later on. But I just said, "Rebecca," I said, "can I just clarify something?" I said, "Ken said he was offering me the part, but then he said it's an ensemble piece." And she just said, "No, Dave, it's all on you."
And it really is.
And that was when the reality of the situation kicked in, and it was, I mean, joking aside, the anxiety was absolutely crippling at times. But somehow, with the cast and the crew that were there, because there's some absolutely wonderful people Ken has working with him, we all got through it. There was only one real professional actor in the whole film, and that was Trevor Fox, who fantastically played the role of Charlie. The other myself and Ebla and Claire, who are the other 3 main actors, none of us are professional actors. I mean, Claire's done no acting, who took the role of Laura, has done no acting whatsoever, and Ebla lives in the Golan Heights, in Israeli-occupied territory, in a small village, and she teaches theatre. She's never acted before. So for all of us, it was incredibly exciting, but also it was really unnerving. The anxiety from all 3 of us was at times debilitating, to the point that we had to sit down one day and the 3 of us hold hands. It sounds very sort of hippie-ish, but we had to sit down and we called ourselves the 3 Musketeers, because we said nobody else understands the emotions that we're going through. And I mean, there was tears, and every one of us had periods where we thought, "I shouldn't be here." The imposter syndrome for all of us was incredible, but the good people that he has around him, and with Ebla and Claire and Trevor and people like that, it was we got through it, and here we are now.
Yeah, you did a fantastic job. I would like to open the space also for the audience, so if somebody has a question, you can raise your hand. Until then, I want to know, how was it working with Ken Loach? Is it special in any kind of way, how he's directing? And
well, judging by my vast acting experience, I've said this before, and I'll say it again, and I hope nobody videos this and takes it out of context, because Ken Loach is the humblest, gentlest man you will ever meet in your life. He's so kind and he's so generous, but he's also an evil bastard. He has this ability to, because he's working with people who aren't professional actors, he works in a way where you feel safe and you feel protected and you're allowed to show your vulnerability. But he also works in a very specific way, and that is, you don't get the script until the night before. Sometimes you don't even get this, you don't even know what you're doing in an afternoon. And he shoots in sequence. So every day, I mean, when we started, all I knew of my character was he was about my age, his marriage wasn't doing well, and that he owned a pub that was struggling, and that was it. Oh, and he had a dog. And that was it. So you don't know where your character's going to end up. So an average day for me would be 7 o'clock in the morning, get into wardrobe, makeup, get onto set, finish about 7 o'clock at night, back to wardrobe and makeup. And and as you're walking out the door, there's your script for tomorrow. So by the time I got home, and everything would be 10 o'clock at night, so 10 o'clock at night you have to learn the script for the following day. For Trevor, who was a professional actor and has worked for over 30 years, he found that incredibly difficult, because he's used to getting a script 6 weeks in advance and learning it, but he wasn't able to do that. It's a way Ken's worked all his career, so who am I to say it's not the right way? All I will say is that, for example, the scene with the dog, which I didn't know was going to happen. It took a day and a half to prepare, and they left me sitting in the woods in a chair for a good period of time on my own, and all I could hear in the background was big dogs barking. And I just had this sinking feeling. And then Ken came up to me and said, right, okay. He said, right, TJ, it's time to do the deed. So I took that as meaning that the dog was going to die. And then as he walked away, he just turned around and said, or is it? Go. So as I ran down the hill, I didn't know what I was going to expect at the bottom. And when I got to the bottom of the hill, what I was totally unprepared for was there was an exact model, a replica of the dog, down to the finest detail. It was an exact replica of the dog covered in blood. And what you saw from me, I mean, there's only 20, 30 seconds of it, I had a complete emotional breakdown to the extent that I couldn't stop crying for 30 minutes. And I had to be supported. And it sounds ridiculous and overly dramatic, but that was my reaction. And he was only managed to get that because of the way he'd set up the scene. If he'd said to me on day 1, oh, by the way, on day 15 you've got to cry, I couldn't have done it. I don't have the skills or the experience to be able to do that. But because he prepared me in such a way for that scene, the reaction you saw was absolute raw emotion.
So you were actually crying. So there was real tears.
I sobbed for. Well, put it this way: we had to do a scene afterwards where I was meant to bury the dog, and he just said, "Well, no, it's too much. I wouldn't ask you to do that." He says, "You're in no condition to do that." So I had to delay that the following day. But Ken, he doesn't rehearse at all. But what he does is he shoots a lot of takes. So most scenes are at least 12 takes. That scene with the dog was 1 take, and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, Dave, he says, I couldn't and wouldn't ask you to do that again. And I was just, well, thanks. So no, that's the way he works. From what I understand, speaking with other people, it's a unique way of working. Nobody else works like that. As I say, if you ever meet him, he's the kindest, humblest man who hates compliments. He's very unassuming, but he's an evil bastard.
Noted. So, ich habe eine question. Ich kann auch Fragen auf Deutsch ins Englische übersetzen.
I have a microphone for
Over
you.
there. But I think maybe we can even understand it from here.
Thanks a lot. I've seen, I lived in Ireland in the 80s, and I saw in Dublin Riff Raff. I don't know if anybody saw that film of Ken Loach. It's a very early one of him on building sites and that. So from that moment on, I was a fan, and I think it's he did brilliant job, and I think we all can thank him for the things he brought, sort of the social issues that he brought up on the film. And if that's his last film now, which I think it's a pity, but I can understand that, would you thank him and say, like, thank him for all that work he did, like, for what's he given us? And the world is burning, and with that film, like, he did it again. Thanks, Ken Loach.
Question over there as well. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to reply to that. I mean, when we started filming, it was sort of said, the whisper, that this would probably be Ken's last film. Basically, it takes about 2 years for the film to be from start to finish, and it's just not realistic for Ken to do that anymore. And he's admitted now that his eyesight's really bad, and he had not a bad fall, but he had a fall a couple of weeks ago on a train, and he's damaged his ribs and his stomach muscles, so that's why he can't do a lot of travelling. That's why he's not here. It is, I can say with a fair degree of certainty, it's his last film. What it won't be is his last piece of art. He will continue. Well, I mean, he's already talking about making documentaries. I first met him eight and a half years ago. He's angrier now than he was then. And I think that, the film's a very political film, and Ken's a very political filmmaker. And I can't help but digressed into politics. I mean, Ken has fought against oppression, racism, unfairness for all his life. And, with a D, he had to cancel an appointment on me one day, and he rang me, and I said, "Don't worry, Ken." He says, I hate messing friends about." And I thought, right, he's called me a friend, that'll do me. And it still seems bizarre to me when he rings me and I see Ken Loach ringing you. It still seems bizarre. But he's an incredible man. He's got such an anger and frustration at what's happening politically, particularly in the UK, where we have clearly a racist government in charge. I'm quite happy to say that. Well, not happy is the wrong word, but I'm comfortable saying it. And we have if we'd portrayed the reality as it was in the film, people would have thought it was not believable. Every member of the cast that took the part of a Syrian family member, apart from Ebla, who comes from the Golan Heights, is a genuine Syrian refugee. And there was a scene cut from the film, which will be in a later version, where Yor has a conversation with a lady in a wheelchair who's got no legs, and you see her in the closing scenes. That scene was cut out of the film because Ken and Jonathan, the editor, thought it was just too much, it was too brutal. Because that lady's true story is that she lost her husband, her son and her daughter and her legs in a bomb explosion. And every member of the cast who played the family members from Syria all had tales of horror, of torture, of imprisonment. And unfortunately, we have a government in the UK which has now chosen to dehumanise people coming to the UK for help and support. What is immoral, in my opinion, is the fact that the northeast of England has been left to rot. There's villages all over the northeast where the coal mine was the sole employer, and they've all gone and nothing's replaced them. And what you've had is a withdrawal of the state from these villages. There's no banks, there's no post offices, there's hardly any pubs left. And these people that are coming from war zones, that are coming to the UK for safety and sanctuary, are being sent to the northeast of England in busloads to the place where it's got the least resources, the least infrastructure, the least support. None of the people that are coming to my country are staying in the southeast where it is affluent and wealthy. They've been sent up north where you can buy a house for €7,000. A house. You can't get a good car for €7,000, but in the northeast of England you can buy houses. You can buy a row of 10 houses for less than €90,000. I just want to emphasise that, because we've had some bad reviews, a couple of bad reviews, but it's who you would expect from. But I think it's important that you all understand that every member of that Syrian family had gone through unspeakable things, which far beyond anything I've experienced in my life. And as a final example, I've got to highlight the young man who took the part of Bashir, the eldest son. Now, he was difficult on set. He caused some problems, and to the point that people got quite frustrated with him. But when it was explained to me that the scar on his forehead, which was significant, was from shrapnel, from a mortar bomb attack in which his cousin, who was standing that close to him, was killed. Now, I defy anybody to not be in the company of a 13-year-old boy who was experiencing that and not be humbled by it. At 13-year-old, what was my concerns? Football. And I'm not being flippant, that's all my concerns were, the game of football. This young man has gone through unspeakable things, and he's been put in a part of the world where, yes, there's good people there, and they are welcoming them, but on the other hand, the far right in the UK is seen this as fertile ground, and the far right is on the rise in the UK, and it's a very frightening time for the UK.
Yeah. It's rising everywhere. It's what I said before. Unfortunately, we can relate a lot in Germany at the moment, I think. Unfortunately, there's also another screening here, but so we can take the last question. But thank you so much for being here, Dave. It was really interesting and great.
Thank you all. I know we've got to cut it short, but I just want to say, on behalf of Ken is so disappointed he couldn't be here, but I'll pass on the thoughts and I'll pass on the absolutely wonderful reception you've given his film, and I'll make sure I'll tell him that night. So thank you all very, very much, and thank you for supporting Ken's film. Thank you.